This is the How'd You Do It podcast, and I'm your host, Lyle Wilkes. I believe that people have more to offer and knowledge to share than they ever give themselves credit for. So with that, my goal is to deep dive into the success stories of business owners, entrepreneurs, and community icons so they can share the road they traveled and what they learned along the way. Welcome to the How'd You Do It podcast, and I'm your host, Lyle Wilkes. This episode is with my good friend, Michael Morgan with First Community Bank. He has 35 years of experience in the banking world. He knows a thing or two about it. And I look up to him in a lot of different ways. And one of the biggest things is his community involvement and what he does to give back to the people who support him. We deep dive into a lot of different thought processes in the business of banking. And I know you guys are going to enjoy this episode. Well, Michael, I'm glad to have you on. You're one of the people that I've looked up to a lot of ways, especially from the community involvement standpoint. You know, I see you just everywhere, and I think you've got a lot more knowledge and story to tell than you give yourself credit for. Because I know when I was reaching out to you, it's like, I don't know if anybody wants to hear my story, but I think you'd be surprised. So,
well, I appreciate you saying that, and appreciate you having me here today.
Yeah, for sure. So where did it all start? Because you've been in the banking industry for a very, very long time. So when you graduated high school, you just knew that's what you wanted to do, or?
No, that was not at all the case. 35 years just completed in the banking industry, and basically I like to tell people I didn't find banking, banking found me. Okay. I always enjoyed numbers. At first I thought I wanted to be an electrical engineer, and so I spent the first year at Auburn with that as an intention on a scholarship. After that, my scholarship wasn't renewed. I joined the Alabama Army National Guard in order to pay for my school.
Okay.
Came back. I was living back in my hometown and was working a summer job prior to AUM starting, and I get a call one morning, and it was a lady who had known me growing up, worked with our youth at church, and she said, "Hey, would you like to come to work at the bank as our night operator, processing the bank after hours, that sort of thing?" And I said, that would work out great with going to school. And so I started out there, worked as a night operator while I was going to school, and at the time I graduated, I had asked the senior management then, our president, CEOs, both, would they allow me to use them as a reference? And they said, well, would you like to hang around? And at the time I thought, you know what? I enjoy banking, what I'd learned about it, but I also enjoy people. And so I thought, maybe this will work. And after 35 years, it turned out it did.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I can relate, because when I was going to college, I didn't finish college, but when I was going to college, I wanted to be a mechanical engineer, and I was going to school at night as well. I was working during the day as a mechanic, and eventually led me into real estate. And what led me into real estate was the people business, like when I realized that you could have fun while working, like that's what Absolutely. I really wanted. It was the most rewarding thing I've ever experienced too,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you started in college working at the bank, and they offered you a job, of course. So what was like your first role in the banking field?
So out of college, they asked me, there was a gentleman who'd been in the Millbrook office for a long time, and they asked me if I would be interested in being a loan officer in that area. And he was going to be retiring, and they wanted to train me and allow me to do that. And so I got into the role of loan officer, started out with mainly consumer type stuff and ventured over into the commercial loans as well, and really enjoyed it from the start because, as I said, I always had kind of a love for math, and so the numbers side and the finance were, numbers are exact. It's an exact science.
Yeah.
That was appealing to me, but then when you saw that the other side of that, there's people over there, whether it's a consumer or the business. That's the side we always like to say banking is sort of half science, half art.
Yeah.
And those people who can really blend the two together seem to do better than most.
What do you like about the number aspect of it?
Well, one of the main things is that numbers are, as I said, it's a definite science. It's right or wrong.
Yeah.
You can, you come up with the answer, you have the answer. Yeah. You figure out the ratios, you look at the things you need to look at for a bank or, for determining a credit worthiness on a loan, something like that. That part's easy because it's always, the numbers are always going to be what they are. But how you interpret those numbers, how you look at the people behind those numbers, especially in the case of a loan, that's where it gets different. That's where I started enjoying meeting the people, seeing the different walks of life that they came from, being involved in, if you may not think about it, but in the banking world, you see people when they buy a new home, when they have the birth of a child, when they start a business, when they have a wedding, and unfortunately sometimes when they have someone pass away. you see the highs and the lows in their life, and you get to be a part of
I was about
their
to
life.
say you're a big part of that. Because you're you're loaning the money to make things happen. So
We
yeah.
like to think that if you're doing it the right way, you do become a big part of that, and it becomes a relationship.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So how long did you stay as a loan originator?
I was a loan officer, really all the way up through and including. Okay, a little more of the story back. We were at a bank, First National Bank of Wetumpka, had been there for many years since 1905. The bank sold out in late 1900, right before 2000. We had the opportunity to be a part of starting up a new bank. So in August of 2001, we opened First Community Bank, and I was able to start there at the position of senior lender. And so that was an opportunity to work with all of the different lenders, still staying on the lending side of the bank.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was the shift like for that? Because were you still direct consumer on a lot of day-to-day basis, or were you more in the management role, leadership
Not nearly,
role?
still doing it at the size we were at the time. There was a transition from doing a little bit of that still, but also working with all of the other lenders. And so that was, you're there again, you're looking at it from a perspective of, I've got to service these customers, but now I have to service this group of lenders as well and be their go-to for things. And so that was another adventure, and I enjoyed it really well. We had some really great people and a great team.
Yeah. What was that like though? Because for the way I look at it is that you moved very quickly into a leadership role, right? And so there's almost like the accountability aspect of that, like with managing people and making sure that they're taken care of. Plus, you have to balance your actual clients
Sure.
that walk in. So tell a little bit
Sure.
about that.
It was a little bit of a challenge, as sometimes you're wearing two different hats, and you had to make sure you allocated enough time for that during the day for both of those. And quickly that transitioned into not necessarily dealing as much with the direct lending side and dealing more with the administrative side of loans.
Which one did you enjoy more?
Honestly, I enjoyed the ability to have a bigger position in the bank and in the direction of where things were going, but I always missed the dealing one-on-one with the people, and I don't think I ever really let that go. I just really didn't. The relationships, no matter what, are always the most important thing to me. I always looked at it all the way up through there's three different people groups that we were responsible to. It was customers, employees, and the shareholders.
Yeah.
And so I always looked at it from the perspective of, you treat the people on your team right, you treat those employees, they're going to take care of the customers, which is going to take care of the shareholder.
Yeah, for sure. It's just a trickle-down effect.
Absolutely.
It's one big system. There's not, pieces of the puzzle, cogs in the wheel. There's all types of different metaphors. Everyone's important, though. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how long did you stay? And I didn't think about it, but you've been on the ground floor of First Community. Yeah, since the very beginning.
That's one of the biggest blessings that sometimes things happen in life and you think, oh, this is horrible. And so I had in my mind, I'd really fall in love with being in the banking business and thought that First National Bank was going to be the rest of my life. And so when the sale, I thought, this is not good, But like so many times, God's just opening another door. And so I was blessed for a great group of people that helped to organize First Community Bank and to start the bank. So I got the opportunity to be on the original board of directors and be involved with that group. And it was truly a blessing, an opportunity to help the community provide something that I think they really, truly needed, which was a local financial institution.
Yeah.
And so being a part of that was a really huge thing.
That's awesome. What was one of the biggest challenges when it first started? Like,
honestly, when it first started, it's hard to believe, but one of the biggest challenges was keeping up with there were so many people who had been loyal customers who appreciated that hands-on relationship, as we've been talking about, knowing their banker, knowing where decisions were made. And so many people wanted that initial onslaught of customers. I mean, we had deposit people there opening accounts way after hours and doing things. We were just growing really quickly.
So keeping up with the growth was the biggest challenge.
It was.
Well, that's a good problem to have.
It really was.
I think most business owners out there were like, I wish I had that problem.
That's that honeymoon phase you go through. Then it gets to, okay, you're not the new bank anymore.
Yeah.
Now you're out there with everybody else in a competitive playing field.
So growth was the challenges, but what problems did the immediate growth bring? Would you just not have enough people and systems in place, or?
No, actually, and I say it was just what kept you the most occupied.
I got you.
Yeah, we had positioned ourselves and planned for it, knew that there was going to probably be an initial surge, and so we were well prepared for that.
Yeah, I got you. So you're over the loan officers and the lending side of the bank. When did you make your next transfer?
When our CEO prior to me at the bank retired. The year before he retired at the end of 2013. And so at the end of 2012, when they appointed me president that year because he had been president and CEO. So I was president for 1 year while he was still there as CEO. And then when he retired fully, I became CEO.
Did you knew that was coming, or was it a big shock to you, or was that the plan all along?
I had been involved in the transition up through the ranks with that group. Certainly wasn't something I took for granted. And so I won't say totally shocked, but certainly felt it was an honor and a privilege to do that and enjoyed every minute of it. It was a blessing to work with and be surrounded by the team of people, the board of directors that we have, the team from top to bottom, everybody. We got some really good people.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what was it kind of just a bigger management style? Because how many people were you over at that point?
Well, at that point, it was probably 85 or so, I'm going to guess, because I retired obviously at the end of 2023, and at that time we probably had around 110 employees.
Yeah. So what's it like trying to keep every herding cats, so to speak, like trying to keep everybody moving in one direction, keep the culture strong? Like what's that like?
People are always that's the thing you want to take the most time to care. And so our goal was always to try to provide an environment where people wanted to be, where they want to come to work. Because as you know, the world we live in today, people can make a change easily. They can go to the remote side of things. People certainly have options out there for those that are willing to work. And so I always thought it's fun. People would ask, and I guess along the Chick-fil-A model, people would say, how do you always end up with the nicest people in the lobby? The customer experience to us is what was valuable. And, we said it's not so much a training thing. It's just a culture that's ingrained. We hire people who like people because at the end of the day, we're all in a people business.
Yeah. That's interesting. And I think a lot of businesses take that for granted. Like they focus so much on customer satisfaction, right? Like it's like we offer a good loan product or a good, account services or whatever it is in the banking world. I'm not that familiar with it, but they miss out on the aspect of how they feel when they are doing business with you. And I think that's important.
The delivery is everything.
Yeah.
And honestly, with the mentor that I had when I told you I went over to the Millwork side, he was all about, one of the things I remembered he would say, he said, I don't care how good a product you have. If nobody comes through that door, you don't have anything. And obviously now if nobody comes to you online or wherever, so there's multiple ways they can get to you, but the concept is still the same. You've got to want to have that customer experience to be the reason they want to do business with you.
Yeah. It was... I can't remember who it was, but someone told me years and years ago is that people forget what they did for them, right? But they always remember the way you feel every single time. And that goes back to that customer experience. And I think that's why First Community is still just a strong staple and has continued to grow,
I couldn't agree more. I mean, there are a lot of good financial institutions out there.
Yeah.
People have more alternatives than ever now. And so the differentiator that we have is we feel like there'll always be room for a local institution where people, you've got access to decision makers. You can even go in one of our locations and just the way the building is set up, our offices for our C-suite type people from CEO to who they open to the lobby. They're not hidden behind 3 layers of assistants. They're there for customer interaction.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that's an intentional way to set up the building.
It really was, because that's who we are, and that's what we want to portray to our customers.
Yeah, because I do the same thing in my offices. Everything's got glass, right? Like, because I want you to be able to see in, if you need me, you can wave, I want you,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. So I know you've been in it forever. So what was the great financial crisis like?
It was interesting. During that time frame, fortunately, we were, the beneficiaries of having some common sense on the front side of that thing. We never, and two, we were in a great area for that. A lot of the rest of the country experienced things way worse than we did. But from our perspective, we were in primarily Elmore and Autauga counties, really strong markets. So we didn't really have all of the boom that everybody else had, so we didn't have all of the bust. And we tried to have a pretty conservative credit culture on the front side, so there was a little slowdown, but it wasn't really the major impact to us that a lot of banks saw.
Gotcha. So you guys were able to just keep plugging along.
We really did. We were very fortunate.
Yeah, that's awesome, though. That's awesome. So with the CEO, we'll go back to the CEO position. Was there anything like that you did when you took that role that you wanted to do differently or change or improve on?
Now, really, the bar had been set really high in our institution, and we one of the sayings we have is it's a really big ship, and so it turns really slowly, and so there was really no desire to make any sort of major moves. My predecessor did an outstanding job, set the culture. He was a really good leader there, and so I had great examples to follow, and so there weren't any huge major changes now.
Yeah. So one thing I really look up to you on is the fact that you are everywhere in person, right? You know,
Try to be.
well, yeah, every networking event, every like community get together, I see you there. And so why do you do that?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Part of that is through the years, as things have evolved, I've seen it as a strong suit, or I like to think of it as a strong suit of mine, and I truly enjoy, because we talked a little bit about it earlier, in the banking world, and it blends all of those roles when you were a direct consumer lender, when you were a business, when you were administrative roles, all those things piece together to the life interactions that we were talking about, and so you see, I'm getting to be a part of this community. And so I want to give back here. And it's genuine. It's not, it works well for the bank if you're doing that. But genuinely to be involved locally, to see where do your advertising dollars go? Well, we're out there. You see our name on the Little League team. Yeah. You see us involved volunteering. You see us out there with civic clubs. And it's generally something that I enjoy. And I see the benefit of, it's better for all of us when things like that happen. Yeah. I've gotten to know some people, because I appreciate you saying, but I'm not the one that's everywhere. I see some people that, and you're at a ton of places, but I see people that I go, they give a lot to our communities.
Yeah.
They just really do, of their free time. And there are people who are retired that do that. There are people who work that do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've learned that the more you give, just the better things work out, like every single time. And I think a lot of it is that, like, because I like to study things. You're a numbers guy, but I like to understand things and the way they work. And what I through books and talking with people, and I think the fastest way to build trust is through transparency, right?
Sure.
And Zig Ziglar said it the best: is nobody cares what you have to say until they know that you care, right? The easiest way to show somebody you care is to show up and be there and help, offer something, be of value, you know? And so I think if you want to build like you were talking about the banking industry and First Community, if you want to build that culture, you got to do the actions, you got to show up. And I don't know, I really believe in that. And I think First Community really, embodies that. When you walk in, everyone greets you with a smile on their face.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. So.
And it's a rewarding feeling to get to when you're driving around town, or when you're just looking and you say, we had a small part in helping that new business to be there, or there's a new home with a family in it, and we had a small part in helping them to achieve that. The things, because I said that's life milestones for these people that they're reaching, and so they could choose to go anywhere and do this, and for them to choose us is a privilege, and we like to look at it that way and show the appreciation back to the community.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you, like, through the years, do you guys focus on we'll call it residential consumer, you know what I'm saying? Or do you like to do a lot in the commercial side of things as well?
We're pretty well balanced. Obviously, in our area, the numbers can get bigger sometimes on the commercial side of things, and then the commercial real estate loans in particularly. But we've always been a strong residential construction lender.
Yeah.
You continue to, as things evolve over time, consumers have lots of options, as we said. So things like automobile loans and all, existing customers tend to be the ones more likely to utilize us for those, whereas lots of people are just going straight to the dealership. People are going online. There's a myriad of different options for them, but I would say pretty well balanced.
Yeah. What are some of the big commercial projects you've been a part of?
Well, we've gotten to do everything from just private businesses to be involved with healthcare facilities, which is one of the ones that I was most proud of in the Wetumpka area and bringing it there. So governmental things that we've helped municipalities or the counties to do, those are always rewarding as well, because you get an insight then into how those things are working.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Now, I know you invited me to the Wetumpka Trade Center, like their big grant, or the technical
the Career Tech Center.
Career Tech Center, excuse me. And I was do you guys have any involvement in that as well?
We didn't really directly in that one. We do a lot with the schools and stuff, but that is it's a gym.
I was blown away, man.
Yeah,
I mean, like, just the facilities there alone. Like, because when I was there, like, in the mechanic shop, it was like a one bay. We had a couple lawnmowers somebody dropped off. We could work on. But now, I mean, there's airplane mechanics, the construction, the electrical. I mean, there is so much to offer there.
There really is. It's a unique opportunity for young people who, because college isn't for everybody. I'll be honest with you. I think my daughter said it best. The world has a little backwards that you should have everything figured out when you're 18 and know exactly what you want to do. You've taken down a little bit different road before you ended up in real estate.
Yeah.
This just provides opportunities for jobs that are really in demand for those young people. And so anybody out there that hasn't seen it, and Autauga County has one as well that is quite impressive. But the things they're doing there, those young people are coming out with a real skill set, certified credentials, and they're going to work.
Yeah, the opportunity there is unreal. And I think skills are important, for such a long time it seems like everyone pushed for that college degree. And I'm not discounting that by any means. There's a time and place for it, but at the same time, with that push for the college degree, I feel like everyone discounted the skill set and almost, I'm not going to use the word degraded, but it just wasn't, good enough, right? Like,
You're right. And I'll tell you, one of the primary challenges because as you know, I've been on the Elmore County Board of Education for a little over 10 years now, and so I had a unique opportunity to see that from the inside. And when they made that transition to expanding the offerings at the Career Tech Center, one of the primary challenges at the time, Dr. Jimmy Hull was there. He'd taken over. And it was the battle with the parents about perception. It was, my child's not going to trade school. And so the rebranding that as a career technical center and also including things like dual enrollment for college and that sort of thing so that all those kids were together going to that campus has been extremely successful.
Yeah.
But that was a major hurdle in the process.
Perception probably was the word I was looking for because it was looked down upon, right?
It was at one time.
And and even coming from a skill background, being a mechanic for a long time, people looked at me, a little different than they look at, and then that's just part of it, But
it's unfortunate because if they knew what the opportunities that some of these young people can make with the careers they're getting, they would look up to it.
Yeah, zero student loan debt, and all of a sudden you're making six figures within 8 months. Like, I mean, that's just such an opportunity.
We got the new diesel mechanic program over there now, which is extremely high demand. HVAC, the aviation program that I don't think a lot of people just don't realize the opportunities that are out there.
No, and I don't think people realize the environment that place is. Like, I mean, I was blown away, especially from what I knew what it was to where it is now. It's just unbelievable.
Well, I'm glad you took the opportunity to come over there because in your profession, you're the one marketing our area, selling it to people. And so when you know about those things and those opportunities and you're talking to families, it gives you something else to tout as far as what's available.
Yes, absolutely. What was it like why did you get involved in the Board of Education?
Well, there again, just like the banking thing, Board of Education kind of found me. I didn't find at the time. The board member who was in the district where I live was moving out of the district, and so the current superintendent and deputy superintendent at the time, they went through a process of seeking people that were interested. They came and talked to me and asked if I would have any interest in allowing them to appoint me to fulfill the unexpired portion of that term. And so obviously I sat down, talked about it, prayed about it, and talked with the bank about it and what their perception would be. And as always, they were very supportive because, as you've mentioned, they've always wanted us to be very community-minded and involved in the community. And so I agreed, and they're rightfully so. Their ask was, we don't want you to accept this appointment unless you're willing to run for it when re-election time comes up. And I shy away from that. I was more than willing to do it, but I was like, I am not a politician. I don't consider it running for. If I'm at any event and they say, all elected officials stand, I was like, I'm not elected. I'm a guy who cares about students. I'm a product of the public school system in Elmore County. Wanted to do whatever I could to help contribute.
Yeah. So what were some of the things you were involved in while serving on the board?
It's been interesting, the things, obviously always there's over 1,300 employees, so there's always personnel items that are ongoing. The construction projects and just learning, one of the biggest things is learning the funding sources that come in and the real challenges of living in an area where we're at the base 10 mil, the minimum required by law. And so there's challenges that go along with that with your budget. But public education, you can see this. We're blessed in Elmore and Autauga counties with good school systems. I think it's been a catalyst for growth. You're a realtor. You know that.
People come here for the school systems.
And I try to tell everyone, even the people that say, well, I don't have a kid in school, so it doesn't matter. It matters because if you want to know quality of public schools has everything to do with the property values, as you know. It has to do with crime rates. It has to do with availability of workforce. There are just so many things that are touched by that. And it's going to have to do with what commercial offerings come here, what stores choose to locate here, what restaurants choose to locate here.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're going to follow the rooftops.
Well, I mean, the education, the schools are the start of the next 15, 20 years.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people forget about that. Like, if we're not pouring into that and giving that our time, energy, and effort, 10, 15 years, you can hang it up.
Exactly.
You know?
And then that property you invested in is going down instead of watching it continue to appreciate, as we've been fortunate to see.
Yes. So it turns out helping others really helps yourself,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
It does. But it's extremely important to know the value of what schools bring, what quality schools bring.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned not being a politician. Why didn't you ever want to venture into that?
I just feel like when you get out there, and first thing I'll say, I'm thankful. We got some great local people that they're willing to subject themselves to the scrutiny that goes, because as we live in a world now where everyone's a keyboard warrior, and those who are not responsible for the decisions seem to be the best at making them.
Oh yeah.
So, and not to put anybody down, I never really wanted to subject myself or my family to the political process.
Yeah.
I enjoy, and I've been fortunate because the times that I've had to run for re-election, I ran unopposed, and they always say there's two ways to run: scared and unopposed. And so thankfully, I've been blessed, and I'm thankful for the local leadership that we do have, and even at the state level, our representation. But I just never thought it was for me.
Yeah,
I'm a people pleaser of sorts, and I don't want to see my name out there with the back and forth of, because no matter what you do, you're not making everyone happy.
No. I've been, people have come up to me and asked me, like, well, be involved in the town, be involved in things like that, and it's just maybe one day, but right now there's no way. And I think I relate to you in the aspect of, like, I don't want to deal with the 5, 10, 20% that just hate my guts because I have a certain opinion or whatever it is.
I think you have to be wired to take that.
Yes.
And to be able to just slough it off and say that I'm on a mission and I'm focused and I'm not going to worry about that. And I'm thankful for the people who do it that way.
Yes. Yeah.
Really
it takes a very, very special person.
It does.
I'm not that guy.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. I will be on the back end, behind the curtains, helping, doing whatever I can to make things happen. But on the forefront, and I'm not, because I don't necessarily like being in the spotlight either.
I would agree.
Yeah. Because it's too much pressure. Too much pressure, and I just want to be the one for myself. I guess I played a small part, and that's good enough.
I've always enjoyed that philosophy. Even at the bank, with things, always, if things go really well, it's the team. It's amazing what you can get accomplished when you don't care who gets the credit.
Yes. Yeah. Because when everything goes right, it's the team. When everything goes wrong, it's you, right? Yeah.
It's sometimes that's just the way it needs to be.
Yes. Yeah. And what's funny is not, you said, I've never thought about it like that, but I don't mind taking the blame and taking the problem and trying to fix it. I don't mind that, but the being in the spotlight is probably what I have an issue with.
I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah. So, Board of Education, what else have you been involved in?
Well, I currently serve on the board for the Joe Sewell Scholarship Award.
Okay.
I'm on the Holtville Water System Board of Directors, Alabama Bankers Association Board of Directors.
Yeah. So, there anything changes or with the Banking Association? Is there anything new or anything exciting happening there? Or is it just crunching numbers?
There's always legislative things that are ongoing down there. We were represented by a really good association that's always keeping us on the forefront of what's happening there. And then they also provide lots of networking and educational opportunities. So that's a great organization to be involved with.
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you do? I know you like to travel. So where as there big plans since the retirement started, or
one of the things? Well, first off, my daughter. I have 2 adult children. One of them lives close by, so it's easy to get to see. The other is she and her husband are in Houston, Texas. So. Obviously, since the first of the year, I've already made a trip to Houston, and probably that would be a little more frequent to be able to get to see her. But yeah, I love to travel. One of the things that's on the horizon for this year is they were kind enough in a retirement kind of sense of a gift, is a guided hike through the Grand Canyon and some of the slot canyons in Utah, and some kayaking on Lake Powell. So that kind of stuff is really appealing to me.
What made you? Because I'm real big into hiking and traveling and things like that. What's the appeal to you with it?
It's just something about being outside and creation. You could, and no offense to the people that love Disneyland and all the things where, there's tons and crowds of people, but if you've ever been somewhere like Arches National Park in Utah and you're out 1 million acres of land and there's just, you're looking at creation and appreciating all the different land features and stuff. I would rather be out hiking somewhere or taking that in.
Yeah. What's your favorite place you've gone to so far?
Probably some of the things out there in Utah, because my daughter lived out there for a while, and they've got like 5, national parks in the state, and just some incredible scenery. It was fortunate enough to do the Angels Landing hike out there in Zion, so that was a lot of fun.
Me and my wife went to Zion National Park a couple years ago, and it was just unbelievable what was out there. That's one of the places I definitely want to go back to.
It's incredible.
And what was Angels Landing, the hike, like?
Not gonna lie, it was a little intimidating at times. I don't understand the people who do it when it's snowy or anything, because when you get to that point where you're hanging on to the chains, it's a little scary.
Yeah, we were going to do that, but then we started looking at it and reading everything, and I looked up a video on YouTube, and there's chains and stuff. I was just like, maybe not this one, maybe not this one. We'll get a little bit better prepared.
And there's a sign on it somewhere. It tells you how many people have died on that, and not to be the next one. So you're like, this is serious.
Yeah, because we'll be hiking or whatever, and we're I'm in tennis shoes, and I've got a fanny pack with some gummy worms in it and a bottle of water, and I'm passing people with camel packs and like the sticks, and they're really serious. I'm like, maybe this isn't the hike for us. So yeah. And you did a triathlon, right?
Yeah, that was the one, I guess, goal that I set for a while. Was one of those things that you can't buy it, can't let somebody else do it. You just had to work for, and it took almost a year of my life getting ready for it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
What year was that?
That was 2017.
17. What made you want to do it?
Yeah, I had a friend who had done some. I kind of got involved in trying to get in better shape, take care of myself as I was getting older, and never really liked the swim though. So I thought, triathlon's not going to be for me. But once I realized that, you can do that. It's okay. Then it was, and you'll, I think, agree with this part. It's just like anything else in the business world and where you realize it's so much more mental than physical. Yeah. When you hear numbers of somebody riding a bike some distance or run, you say, that can't be done. But then when you work your way to get there and you go, oh, no, the mental perception changes. Oh, you can do that.
Yeah.
And so believing it is way more than half.
Yeah, there was a buddy of mine I knew growing up, and we're still friends today, but he was actually I don't know a lot about it, but he actually raced against Lance Armstrong when he was like 17. He was a big in biking. He won state champions, all that. And I was like, how did you do it? Like, did you just have to train a lot? And he goes, no. You just have to be willing to hurt more than the other person. You
enjoy suffering.
That's it. That's all he said. And I thought about it, and I thought about that statement for a while, but I think most things in life are like that,
You're exactly right.
Yeah,
because I was never one of the fastest. I wasn't going to be fast. My goal wasn't I was going to try to beat me, not anybody. I knew what pace I wanted to be at, but just like you said, it's just willing to get out there and say, I'm just going to have to suffer through this.
Yes, yeah, for sure. So it was like just a personal goal for you that you wanted to accomplish?
Yeah.
Well, is there anything inside of you, or a thought, or just one of those things you wanted to do?
Yeah, it was. And I think the thing I took away most from it, and I think you can probably relate to this, is back to life too, is, accomplishing the goal seemed to be this overwhelming thing of, I wanted to, but once it got there, once you crossed that finish line, it was like, oh, and you realize the journey was so much more important than the medal or I did it. It was what you did to get there. That was the thing you look back on and appreciated more than it was the cold days when you ran and the hot days when you ran, all the different things, the ups, the downs, and the process.
Yeah, it's all. Yeah,
it's like the journey is better than the destination.
For sure. And there's all kinds of different quotes like that, but I think until you actually experience it, you don't really understand it enough. You don't embrace it enough, because for me it was a lot of, like starting out, like I had goals, and goals were always result orientated,
Right.
And it was like, I'm going to get the new truck, I'm going to get the big house, I'm going to get the acreage, I'm going to get investment properties, I'm going to do all of these different things. And it's like, I kept checking the boxes, right?
Right.
I kept checking the boxes, and it's like I was never satisfied. It's because I didn't necessarily enjoy the process or realize what the process was. That's where the growth comes from. That's where the real accomplishments are.
Yeah.
So.
I think that a lot of that comes with age.
Yeah.
As we're younger, you're setting those goals out there. You want to do those things. What's next? Yeah.
Yeah, and all the wise people I've talked to have tried to tell me these things, but I guess I'm just too hard-headed. I got to fail on my own to figure it out.
I think we all have to do that to some degree.
Yeah, for sure. Do you got any other goals you're trying to accomplish or new stuff?
Looking at some possibilities of signing up for not a full, but maybe some lesser triathlon type things. Definitely with more time on my hands now. I'm exercising more. I want to make that a priority. traveling more, and staying committed and involved. I've got a little more free time now, so I want to. I feel like it's my turn to try to give back more to the community.
Yeah, yeah. What does that look like for you as far as giving back more to the community? Because I personally feel like you've given so much back and you have been involved. So what does that look like? What plans, what marks do you want to leave?
There are a lot of really worthwhile organizations, and even at the schools. People don't realize there's things you can do to volunteer at the schools, but we got a lot of throughout our area with food banks and things like that. So I think I'll find some of those to kind of get plugged in, and maybe not be in a leadership position anywhere, maybe not be, but just say, hey, I'm the guy that's plugging along, helping out.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in just the Tri-County area that I feel like all of these groups and organizations don't get enough spotlight. Like there's a lot of good going on. There's so many people out there trying to help, trying to do better, make the community better, give back, but there's just not a lot of spotlight on it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not what gets most of the media attention.
No,
but you're right. We have some really good groups, really some good people that head those up in our communities that we're fortunate to have.
Yeah. Yeah, going back to the health thing, why is that such an important role in your life, and why do you make it a priority?
Well, honestly, and it's funny because our prior CEO, Trey Cosby, we have some of this discussion back and forth about it, and it's not necessarily that I believe you're going to live any longer. Yeah. We talk about this, but you're going to enjoy the time, whatever time is allotted to you in your life, whatever days that God has numbered for you. Being healthy allows you to enjoy those so much more. The mobility, just you wake up feeling good. I don't want to be I look in the mirror and I see this gray hair, but I go, no, but I still want to be able to get out and do the things I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of like you can call it fitness journey or whatever you want to call it, was actually because I've got scoliosis, and the chiropractor told me when I was like 11 or 12, couldn't figure out why my legs were hurting, but thought it was growing pains or whatever. He's like, you got to build your muscles, and like that's what actually started it for me, was it trying to be better. And for me, it's a little deeper than enjoying, just like knowing as I age I will be able to enjoy it more. But it makes life easier because I'm committed to something. I put in the importance. So therefore, it's easier for me to be more committed in other areas of my life, in my business, relationships, whatever it is.
I think that's the one thing I wish I could go back and tell young Michael, hey, pick this up earlier. And that's where I wish, kids in school, high school, college, learn to love that and take it with them. Find you a sport, find something that's good for you. We're not all going to play football, baseball, and basketball for our entire life, but you can run, you can swim, you can ride a bike, you can do those things and take it with you throughout life.
Yeah, I think just being active in general is important.
It is.
And active in life, active in community, active. I think the people that stop or, retire or whatever it is, they seem to like this. They don't seem as happy as they were in the workforce. And
I'm not a rocking chair type guy.
No,
I don't want to be there.
Yeah, even on my vacations and stuff like that, I'm good for about 30 minutes sitting on the beach. That's about, I max out there. Yeah,
we would get along perfect. Yeah, because that's about me.
Yeah, thank God my wife loves to hike and everything else too. So yeah, we like to go. So, and going back to like with all of your years of experience with leadership, what was probably the best lesson you've learned with helping people and reach their potential and things like that?
That'd be an all-day conversation with some of the things.
Got time.
One of the things I think first of all you have to do, and that is one of the best gifts you can have is empathy, to see look at where people are coming from, because you don't take the time to understand who they are and where they're coming from and their perspective on things. It's really hard for you to just convince people to do it your way. And so, it goes back to what you said about being able to motivate people you can't just tell them what to do. You got to be setting the example. You got to let them know you care. They don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Sure.
And so that's one of the biggest things there, is exercising empathy and learning through that it's okay to make mistakes along the way. Yeah. And just own up to those and take responsibility. Yeah. We're going to learn from this. We're going to move on. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. It's funny. When I try to help people, and as far as in the real estate world, I was like, be okay failing, right? Like and I use the metaphor as far as riding a bike. When you learn the bike, you just hop on it and go. Right. No, you fell over and over and over again. And so don't put this expectation on yourself of like when you're trying to learn something new or implement something new into your business, if it doesn't work the first time, that's okay. Keep failing, keep falling.
Exactly.
You'll eventually learn to, and I think also allowing people or giving a space where people feel comfortable doing that and have that support system, that when they do fall, you're going to be right there. So,
exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I love people's take on things. So, yeah. What was the most rewarding part about the leadership role that you served while at the bank, and you still are in a lot of different ways?
Still, I'll be carrying the flag,
Yeah.
till I die. But we've probably already hit on most of the thing. The most rewarding part for me wasn't a title, it was the people I got to be involved with, both internal in the bank, because I was surrounded by some incredible people, some really good people at what they do. But it offered me an opportunity to do these things that we've talked about community-wise and all that I would have probably never had otherwise if I was working somewhere in an 8 to 5 job. They allowed me to be involved in the community, to be a part of things, and that it's rewarding, not in a self-serving kind of way, but just in a say, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of what's going on in our community to try to provide that so we leave it better than we found it.
Yeah, yeah. With community, like how do you help build the community? Because I feel like since COVID happened, we've lost sight of that in a lot of different ways, right? Like we don't have that strong community unless a disaster strikes, which community comes together, right? But how do we continue to encourage that?
Yeah, that's the challenge. It really is. Everything from people quit going to school for a while and they came back, and now you'd be surprised, chronic absenteeism is a big problem, and the workforce went remote to a large degree, and a lot of people didn't want to come back, and that's challenging because they can all still connect via social media and those sorts of things, but that's not the real world, and it's not where we live, and it's not where you get conversation like this. It's so, I guess, being out there and just encouraging people to do that is the way, trying to set that example, because it is a challenge. I feel like it's a pendulum that swung a little too far, but I think I see it coming back some. I see people wanting to be out and doing things more. I see people wanting to go back to the workforce and not wanting to just be alienated, because we're creatures that were made to have relationships.
Yes, yeah, I completely agree with that, and I think people, like for me personally, and maybe you can relate to this, is like when I go to a networking event, like I'm almost energized, right? Like I see people like they're happy to see me. I'm happy to see them. Like it's just a good feeling,
And you learn so much from each other.
Yeah.
And it's invaluable. I think the coffees you do, by the way, are great.
Yeah. It's been a fun thing. This is the second year we started doing them, this is the second year of doing them. And it's been a really neat thing. And I think when I first started off, people had like a misconception of it, like they thought it was like there was some type of bait and switch or agenda, and that rightfully so, because a lot
people
of
always want to know where the hook is. Yeah.
Yes, but I just kept trying to tell people, like, there is no hook, there is no catch, there is no anything. Like, if you want to be in a room full of people that want to do better and want to give back and want to collaborate, this is the place to do it.
Yep.
And I think it's taken a year, but I think after that year, people finally realize that's really what it's about. And I think that's, going back to community, I was trying to brainstorm and find ways which I could bring people together, because in the real estate industry, and, maybe not so much with the banking, but it's a very lonely environment, right? But I'm sure you two crunching numbers at night or what have you, things can get lonely. And so it's like, how do I bring people together and bring that collaboration? So,
well, and still the great opportunity to meet somebody. Maybe you didn't have a relationship with somebody in this industry or this industry, and now you know someone, and so that's where so much of what we do ends up from referral sources anyway. Knowing somebody that says, "Oh yeah, I know someone. I know somebody that can do that for you. Here's a card, or here's a..."
Yes. Like the longer I go on a business, the more I realize, yes, you need to be able to do extremely good at what you do. Skill set needs to be high. Those things are important. Those are the fundamentals.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, it's relationships, and it's caring about people and letting them know. And I think that's
it's an industry, any industry. You're right. The fundamentals, the blocking and tackling of your specific whatever you do, got to be there. But at the end of the day, we're all in the people business.
Yep.
Most everyone. And so what you do, you need to be able to form those relationships and work with those people if you're going to be successful at it. You can get by with just the blocking and tackling, but if you don't put those pieces together to get to that next level, then you're not going to achieve the success that you could, your full potential.
Yeah, full potential is a thing. You can get by. You can have 50, 60, 80% of it, whatever it is. 80%, you can run ragged doing it like that. But it's much easier when you got, the relationships. Everyone's cheering you on, you're cheering them on. So, So if there's anything you could go back and do different in the banking industry, would you?
I don't think so.
No?
I enjoyed the time I had there. I got to experience all aspects and areas of it. When I started there, I was doing that night operator thing. I was cutting the grass after hours. I was doing whatever I could to just, and that's what I would encourage people to, don't be afraid to show people you want to do something extra, and don't ever say, well, that's not my job. I don't want to. Learn as much as you can. I don't care what area it's in. If it's not your area, be willing to learn it, because I was fortunate that they allowed me the opportunity to do that. And so you get that holistic approach of the business, not just, I know my area and I don't need to know anything else because that's all I want to do.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like a lot of the younger generation comes into it automatically once that CEO position, right? They don't want to go through the steps. So what's your thoughts on that?
That's funny. As a young person, I remember at one of I got kind of caught. You couldn't create your own, but I'd taken one of our CEO's business cards and I white out his name and had put my name on it as a kind of a joke thing. And I got it back at the Christmas party with a little poem. So I think it's okay to have that, definitely to have that ambition and that drive and that desire to want to be there. But you got to want to enjoy the process too. Like you said, you got to want to pay your dues. And I think that is something that's kind of gotten lost on society now. Everybody wants instant gratification, and it's the world that we kind of portray on social media, and everybody sees that everybody else's life looks better because they're just showing you the highlight reel, not showing you what their own journey looked like, where the struggles were. But so being willing to say, I'm going to put in the time. And we're also one of the challenges with that is people are so quick to want to jump to another. I'm going from this job to this job to this job. I was just never wired that way. I started with one group, liked the way they were treating me. I'll never forget when he said, look, if you're just looking for a job, he said, I'll give you a reference today. And he said, you could probably start out making more money.
Yeah.
But he's basically said, if you want a career, something that's rewarding and potential, he said, I'll tell you what I'd tell my own son, I think you have a future here. Yeah. And I believed in that. And so I thought I'm going to be willing to work through that. And
you touched on a lot of different things there, and I think with the process of it, I think people discount the growth you experience through that process, right? Because can you imagine you fresh out, like all CEO, right?
With what I thought I knew, when I knew
exactly.
nothing. That is absolutely right.
Yeah.
And by that same token, one of the things I think it's important, because we do live in more of a microwave society where everything's is to communicate with people and let them know where they are on that journey, and to let them know, no, you are important. You have a future here.
Yeah, encouragement, right?
And encourage them to say, because if you've got good people working with you on your team, guess what? Other people are going to want them constantly. Yeah. And so just making sure that they have that open door to say, look, if this happens, talk to me first. Let's talk about this.
Yeah. Let them know they feel valued.
Exactly.
Because that's really what I think people want more than anything, is just know that they're appreciated.
I think it's true at Kathy that said, how to tell the people that need encouragement, they're breathing. Yeah. And it's so true.
Yeah. I've never heard that. I like that. That.
It's the absolute truth.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, man, I think that the banking industry is a lot more complex than what people think, and it's a lot more community involvement than people think, And I think
there's a lot of science on the backside, the regulatory environment, the asset liability management, the interest rate risk, and all those things that you can crunch and do. Yeah. But then again, like we said, you got to marry that with the side that's more art of how you deliver, of where you place yourself. And like I said, there are companies that they just want to be. We're an online offering. We're strictly for technology and what people want, and they don't want any interaction. And there are people out there like that. Yeah. But we kind of position ourselves as the people that do want that.
Yeah. And I think after our conversation, they're missing out.
I appreciate you saying so. We try to do the best at offering, here's the technology if you want it. And if you don't want to see us, you don't have to. Yeah. But I think in a lot of roles, in a lot of different businesses, people, when they do have a concern or they do have a question, they don't want to press 9, press 8. They want to, hey, this is, and get a real person to talk to that can really give them an answer. Because I don't know about you, but I'm one of the most aggravated people when I have to say, representative.
Oh, I know. Just sit there like, I want to talk to somebody, please.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's so important. That's one of the things I push for. And, when a buyer comes to a house and they're choosing the lender who they're going to get financed through, it's like pick somebody local, and I choose somebody local because normally you can pick up the phone and call them, right? That's the most important thing in the process is communication, because it's you've got 10, 12, 15 different companies working together to help you close on your property. Well, if none of them are in communication, this is a mess.
It's a coordination process of that.
It's a team effort. Yeah. It really is. And a lot of people don't realize that the home inspector is just as important as the banker. The banker's
all part of the process.
The pest control company, the realtor, the lender, I mean, just the attorney. There's all kinds of different people. I mean, if you have to have repairs on the property, the contractors, but it takes a group effort. And if you don't have a team that believes in communication and being able to pick up, it's a struggle. It is a struggle. And most deals, in my experience, have fallen apart because of lack of communication.
Yeah, you're right.
One hand didn't know what the other one was doing. And
people get quick to point the fingers of that rather than say, oh, yeah, I know somebody over there. I'll just give them a call. We'll iron this out quickly.
Yeah. That's one of my pet peeves. I can't stand trying to get something. It's like not my job. That's a pet peeve of mine. Just to be helpful.
Exactly.
We're all trying to work towards the same goal here. So, well, man, I guess that kind of wraps it up. I think we told a lot of,
I've enjoyed talking with you today. Really.
Yeah, I do want to ask you a couple questions before we leave. What's your favorite book, man? You a book reader?
I am a book reader. Used to not be there as much, but I would have to say probably the most recent one that I've really enjoyed is The Boys in the Boat. And a movie came out right at Christmas time of it. The movie doesn't delve into nearly as much detail as is typically the case with the book, but The Boys in the Boat tells the story of the University of Washington's rowing team, and this is a bunch of ragtag, some country boys, this post-depression era, and their bid. It's a true story. Their bid to end up on the biggest stage, competing in the Olympics against Hitler's Nazi Germany pre-World War II teams who had been dominant, and I won't spoil the ending for you, but it's a really good story of perseverance, hard work, and it's enjoyable.
Do you read most books that are like storytelling, or like for me, like it's always like some type of knowledge, personal development?
I like some of that and enjoy some of those, but also like any of the adventure type things, into thin air, the story on the Everest, Into the Wild, those kind of adventure books.
Into the Wild's a good one.
David Goggins, I don't know, the seal Can't Hurt Me, and
that's a good one.
The Living with the Seal one was great too. The kind of documentary of a guy that hired him to come live with him for 31 days and train him.
Oh, okay.
You would enjoy it. It's basically just a little chronological journaling of what happens, but
I'll have to pick that one up.
It's a quick, easy read. It's really good.
Okay. What's your if you could have dinner with anyone, past, present, or future, who would it be?
Probably, and may seem like a boring one to some, but for the common sense, knowledge, wisdom, and the color that he delivered it with, Ronald Reagan.
Really? Okay. Yeah. What sport? Yeah. So that's always been a thing for you. Always admired him.
I always admired him. Yeah. Actually, when I graduated high school, did a little funny thing. There was no online all then. He was president. I sent an invitation to graduation to the White House. I got a card back from Ronald Reagan.
Did you really?
I got a graduation card. Still have it in the memory.
I do. Still have it? That's awesome. Did he sign it?
I'm sure it may be some stamped thing, but I'm sure it went through a process. And they said, could be somebody that donated. We don't know, but they were kind and sent it back, and I was hoping that was what would happen.
That's awesome. Yeah. That really is cool. What's your favorite food, man?
Thai food.
Thai?
Some good pad Thai. Yeah.
Oh, man, where do you get it around here?
There's of course Wetumpka's got a couple of places. There's a little place downtown, and then the Yummy Thai, and then over here in Millbrook there's a place.
Which
on
place
14
in Millbrook?
over there? It's Ban Thai.
I go there a lot.
Yeah,
I was wondering if you were going
all the way back from when it was the Thai place.
Yeah. I never pronounce it right. Pad See Ew. That's my go-to. It's really good. So we got how you did it, but what is your why? And is it the same today as it was when you started?
And I think you and I had some conversation about this earlier. Not long ago, had a Facebook post that I'd made that said, if the why is powerful, the how is easy. Yeah. And I was really thinking about that. And the next day in church, the speaker that we had there delivering the sermon, it was basically finding your why. And obviously, through the years, I think I've tried to always get that back to my true north. My why, for a lot of part, being honest, was my family. I always wanted to be able to provide do for my children, make them proud of me and the things that I do, and I've tried to do that. But I'm always reminded to go back to, God's got to be the why. If I'm going to be what I should be, I need to be here to honor and glorify Him. I need to be trying to live out a witness for Him. And so that's the why that I strive to always put first.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I think it's important to know your why and be crystal clear on it, because otherwise you're just moving around blind.
Yeah, it's like you have no compass.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And that quote really is powerful. Once you figure out the why, and if it's powerful enough, it'll make the how easy.
Oh, yeah.
Because you'll find a way.
Yeah. I talk with a lot of people about that, like if it's, it's easy to pick up the phone and call somebody when the family's on the line, right?
Exactly.
It's very, very easy. So, well, awesome, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Glad you came
It's
on.
been an honor for me with all. I appreciate it.
Yeah.